Okay, so I've written my model class and I have my XAML. But at the moment, the two can't talk to each other. Okay, so there was BMI model here and the body parameter, which is encapsulated within it, holding the height and the weight. Okay, so we're going to have to do some extra work now in code to get these two to talk to each other. So first of all, we need a model object. At the moment, as you can see, you can type things in and nothing changes because there's nothing hooking them up. So let's stop that. And first of all, we need a data model. So for that, we know the type, it's BMI model, so it's going to be private. And then we will simply go BMI model, just call it model, new BMI model. That's it. The default constructor does it all. Right, so that's that bit done. Now, everything's going to really trigger from somebody clicking and typing into one of those text boxes. So we will begin with the event handlers. Now, there's an entry here for the height and an entry here for the weight. So to give the name of the event handler, we need to know the name of all the events. We could go and look that up, but I know one of them is, if I start changed, or text actually, if I type text, there we go, text changed equals, we're going to give it a name, so we'll call it handle, this is height. Alright, now I didn't do it on this occasion, that's interesting. It didn't actually write the event handler for me. Let's try that again. Oh, there we go. Click that. Yeah. Okay, now I can rename it. What should we call it? Yeah, handle height. Okay, so when you type it, you then do that. No, it puts it back. Right. No edits to the video. Alright, and then if we go into here, we'll just change that one to the same name. There's probably a quicker way of doing that. I tend to spend more time on the Mac version. Okay, so that's the event handler for every time a character is added or deleted. All right, and then we'll do it for the next one, which will be text changed. I wonder if we can rename it, if it'll do it. No. All right, doesn't matter. Handle weight. Okay. So if we want to just test that a minute, we could update the output label. So that's down here somewhere. It's called output label. All right, let's do that. So we could do output label dot text equals e dot new text value, and we could do the same for this one. Save that, save all in fact. Now I'm going to run that one just to see that both those event handlers are hooked up properly. Okay, and this is something we do manually at the moment. write these event handlers. Not yet using bindings. So stealing the thunder from later, if you like, that's what's coming, where you don't actually explicitly have to do this. So if I type 1.8, sure enough, we see what we type in that one, and 200. Good. So we can see that those event handlers are working. This is, of course, incorrect. Leave that for debug later, if needed. Right, so these are very similar. All right, the only difference is which text field it comes from. So I could write all the UI logic in there and there, and what I'll probably find is there's a lot of replication. So I'm going to factor it out now. Now, of course, I'm working from notes, so I kind of thought this through already. There's another thing to do, actually, and that is to initialize the user interface. Now, the output label is currently visible, and I don't want it to be. In fact, there are two labels I want hidden at the start. It's these two, actually. It's the BMI label and the output label. Unless we've got a valid value, I don't want those to display. So let's sort that out for starters. So we'll do BMI label dot is visible is false, and output label, that's also false. Okay, so that's that one. Now we want something to handle the events that's shared. So remember, it's either going to be a weight or a height. I anticipate much is going to be the same. So how will I know the difference between the two? There are various ways I could do it, I suppose, but I'm going to create an enumerated type just to make code nice and readable. If you're not sure what this is, it's really a fancy integer. So enum, I'll call it the entry source. This is a personal style preference, I'll be honest with you. Weight, height. You can actually do quite a lot with enums, but so anything of this type can either take that value or that value, right? And it's very type safe and it's easy to read. So let's create a private method, and this really captures what the C in MVC does, Model View Controller, and it is this. So it's a void, and it will sync view and model. Right, it needs to know the type of text box it's come from, so it's either a weight or a height, and we need the new value, and this will be a string, so we're going to keep it as a string now. So new value as string, as yet unvalidated. So this is where all the action happens. So in here, I'm simply going to pass this across, okay, by passing through. Right, so we're going to go sync view and model. It's a entry source dot height, and it's the new text value, if you recall from above. That's the string. This one's going to be almost the same, except it's going to be a weight. The nice thing about this is it can only be one of those two things. So I can't put, if I use numbers 0 and 1, for example, and I accidentally put 2, what happens? Right, with this, it's fixed, right? If it's that type, it has to be that, or it won't compile. All right, so I don't think we need that anymore. So very thin event handlers here. This is on purpose, because this is pure C#, and so it's more testable if we wish to test it. Okay, so what are we doing here? Well, the first thing we need to do is create a couple locals. So bool success, because we know we're going to be using the model values, and if you recall, they return booleans. And then we also get a reason why they fail, and that tends to be a string. So I'm going to create this error string. Right. Now, so if source is an entry source dot, let's do height first. And then we'll have the else. It can only be a weight. Okay. So we're going to attempt to pass the string now to the model. So if you so success equals, so it's model. If you recall, it's the set. Where are we? We're looking at the height. Sorry, yes, get it right. Set height as string. This is what we're dealing with. Be a little bit careful. New value is string. That's what came from the event handler. And then, why does it do that? Out. Error string. Okay, so remember the model object does the validation. If it fails, it will return false, and it'll set this to something other than the empty string. All right. So success will be true or false. If it's true, we want to hide that little star next to the text field. Or if it's false, we want to show it. So it's the opposite of success. So if we go height error label dot is visible is not success. Notice it comes on when it fails. Right. Now the next one is almost the same. Now because I'm recording this and I'm doing things quickly, I'm going to be very naughty and copy and paste. Shouldn't do that really. Asking for trouble, bug-wise. Success is model set weight, new value of string, error string, and then the weight error. Right, so at this point we've taken this string that's come from whichever text box it's from, whichever entry box I should say, and it's passed it to the model, and the model object will have set the error string accordingly and returned a true or false in this one. Okay, so, and we've already picked up the little star on the end, whether it was okay. Now, having set one or both, we can now check the BMI value to see if we've got one. Now, if you've only set one of them, it'll be null. So, and if one of them is invalid, it'll be null. So we'll find out easy enough. If model.BMI value, that's a property, the little spanner, is not null, in other words, we have an actual validated value, then we want those two labels up here to become visible. So this is UI logic now. All getting entrenched, right? Equals true. Same for the output label. Excuse any noises in the background. And we will set the output label text to something label, well, to the BMI. So it's string.format, very useful string.format. And it will be the first parameter, fractional 1 decimal point. That's it. Model dot BMI value. And remember, just to recap, if we go back to the model, this is why we could just do that thing now. Instead of having to go model dot BMI value, we could actually just write model. Right, so I could just do that. Be the same thing. I kind of regret it. I think it looks better with .bmi value on the end, but it's kind of, yeah, all right, it doesn't matter. Either way around. Okay, so that's if we have a value. Otherwise, we need to make sure these are both hidden. Yeah, which is this code. Starting to think I should write a function to do that. And that means that the label disappears. Now we've got one more label. If you recall, I wonder if we've got the previewer here. Yeah, just here underneath, all right, which is used for user feedback. That's that text string. Okay, do we close this one? Collapse that again. Right. And that's the error label. That was its name in the XAML. I'm going to write a little function, little method, to handle that. So it's private void give feedback string message string, and it'll be simply that error label dot text equals message string. Okay, that's fine, and it's visible. So all we would do at the moment is go if not success give feedback the error string. As provided by the model. So if you recall, when we do this bit here, this error string gets modified. So if it's an error condition, now the problem with this logic is that when it's not an error condition, the old string will still be there, as you'll see. And we can get ourselves in quite a tangled mess. So let's now run this. What I could do is just always call that, I suppose. The thinking was, though, it only displays something if there's something wrong, which means managing things a little bit more. But this is now doing the synchronization we need. So let's just check this star disappears. 1, yep, because it's valid already, 0.8. Height. Weight, sorry, let's put 200. See, this has popped up because 20 was invalid. Oh, actually, it wasn't. 2 was invalid. Yeah, there you go. But then when I did that, this is still here. Oh, and that's wrong. Maybe that didn't work. Hang on. I've seen that before, actually. Maybe that's a bug. That's something for the unit tests. Put it back as it was. I've probably got to cast it. Let's wait for that to run. So 1.8. I don't know who this person with 1.8 is, but anyway. Let's do 85, and yeah, now it's working. Now we've got this BMI value. If we have an invalid value, 5, it's gone. Good. Okay, but this is persisting all the time. 55, it's not gone away. It's the last error that was displayed. So I only want to display something if there is an error, but that's not what's happening. We're not getting rid of it. So in the next video, I'm going to use a little animation trick to make it go away.